When it comes to Call of Duty, there is a vast history and background for everything, whether you're talking about multiplayer, zombies, or what I like to talk about, story and campaign of the games. And throughout the years, Call of Duty could be a vastly different game now if just a couple of changes were made. And in fact, there was a ton of opportunity for that. In fact, last week I made a video discussing Call of Duty Modern Warfare, the entire franchise and missions, story, and cutscene that has been deleted from all of the Modern Warfare franchise. And I started with Modern Warfare because I thought those deleted scenes were more interesting. But as I dove into the deleted scenes from the Black Ops franchise, it was crazier. There was one Black Ops game that was not supposed to be a Black Ops game. There was one Black Ops game with a completely deleted campaign, but not one deleted campaign, but three. You did not hear that wrong. And then on top of that, there were story changes, missions that were deleted, and a bunch of other things as well that we're going to go over in this video. And if you like me covering the deleted content from the various Call of Duty games, show me by hitting that like button. I find this stuff fascinating, and you guys seem to really enjoy the last video. So if you want to see me continue this with other deleted missions from other Call of Duty games, or even diving into the multiplayer and zombies content that has been deleted, there's some wild things out there. But without further ado, the Black Ops franchise doesn't actually start with the Black Ops games. It was one game before that. That's right, Call of Duty 5. I know you didn't know this game existed, but yes, Call of Duty 5. Okay, no, I'm just kidding. Call of Duty 5 eventually became Call of Duty World at War, but as they started developing it, yes, it was considered Call of Duty 5. Now, once they did start developing it, there was a bunch of missions within this campaign that never came to fruition. And in fact, there was an entire campaign itself that didn't come to fruition. So because this was an older Call of Duty game, they have notes on everything. Other missions that weren't released, objectives within those missions, so we can piece together a pretty good idea of what these missions actually were, what their names were, where they would take place, things along those lines. The first deleted mission went by the name of TRN, or Train. Now, it didn't get very far, but as you can see, this was like a training course, and pretty much every other Call of Duty campaign had this, so it was actually kind of surprising that you just started off straight into battle in Call of Duty World at War. Now, all of these campaign missions go by short acronyms, so TRN was the training course, and then the next one was FLY, or Fly. Now, there was rumors going around before the game got released that there was a mission where you would be flying in an airplane. Now, you would eventually get shot down and crash, and that would tie into the next mission, which would be Hard Landing, where you end up going in and finding the down pilot, which is actually a pretty cool tie-in that we never got to see. Now, there was also a separate set of missions. So kind of how we had the Russian campaign and we had the American campaign, there was also supposed to be a British campaign with missions titled HOL 1, 2, and 3, or Holland 1, 2, and 3. And we have a little bit of a description for each of these missions. So the British side of the campaign would be with Sergeant Maddock and Corporal Goddard, characters who never saw the light of day. Now, the first mission of this, you would actually be going through a German checkpoint, and you would have to put on a German uniform to disguise yourself as the Germans to get through said checkpoint and eventually find some hidden documents. That's all we know about mission number 1. The second mission was sneaking through a German convoy and defusing bombs that were planted on bridges, all of which of this was taking place in Holland. Therefore, they were all snowy missions, which was definitely a lack of within Call of Duty World at War. And then the final of the 3 missions was breaking into some sort of mansion that was housing POWs, and you would be essentially saving these hostages, which is interesting because none of these ever existed. This entire part of the campaign never existed. So clearly there was some other ideas going on originally at the beginning of the development for Call of Duty World at War. But one thing that is interesting about this game is there was one cutscene that was removed, or at the very least toned down. So when you're storming the Reich at the end of the campaign, at one point one of the characters, Chernov, ends up getting burnt, like literally burned with a flamethrower. And it is at this point where he dies. However, originally in the game, there was another option. Either you could put him out of his misery, or you could reject doing that, and Reznov would do it for you.
Hey, Chernov! No! He is suffering. You know what you should do.
Yeah, dark, right? So there's several deleted missions as well as a cutscene from Call of Duty World at War, but there was one other thing. You know how at the end of World at War, when you beat the campaign, you get launched into zombies? Well, originally it wasn't supposed to be zombies. Originally, you were supposed to be a German fighting against the Americans on D-Day, trying to stop them from coming up on the beach. It was a wave defense game as they stormed the beach, and eventually you would get overran and you would see the American soldier take over the Germans, and that would be the end. And of course, as we know, eventually this mode got replaced with zombies. So that brings us to an end of World at War. So now let's actually move into Black Ops. Now, moving into Black Ops 1, first of all, the game wasn't supposed to be originally called Black Ops. Originally, it was codenamed Call of Duty CW, in other words, Cold War. But this was later changed because they originally wanted to keep the name similar to World at War, in other words, Cold War. They switched that to Black Ops, and let's just say this would stick. Now, originally, apparently there was a time period set for this game, but the story wasn't really set in stone. They had an idea for a character by the name of Frank Barnes, which ended up being Frank Woods, which would take place in the Cold War, and originally, it was actually planned that this was going to be a co-op campaign, similar to what we had in Call of Duty World at War. All of these ideas were kind of scrapped, and eventually the idea of Black Ops was put together. And because of this, there was a solidified idea of what this game was going to be, and inside the game, there wasn't really too much cut content. However, there were interviews with the studio early on where some of these missions got deleted. One of which was reportedly called The Defector, where Alex Mason and Victor Reznov were on a mission together where a helicopter crashed, it crashed into a building and killed some American soldiers. This never happened, and there was also rumors that this mission was also called Slaughterhouse, so no one ever saw this and never saw the light of day. However, one thing that did see the light of day was the world premiere trailer, in which we see Gregory Weaver not wearing an eye patch in a later mission in the campaign, meaning either they pulled a Marvel and tricked us in the trailer, or number two, they didn't originally plan on Weaver losing his eye, which I find pretty interesting. That's really all that there is for Black Ops 1, and one I had to actually dig a little bit deeper for was the next game, Black Ops 2. Now, on the internet, on YouTube, anywhere, there is nothing in regards to deleted scenes, deleted missions, maps that weren't there in the campaign. But I did an interview with Frank Woods about a year ago, 6 months ago, really. And he told me this.
Yeah, we had 7 ending scenes. We shot 5. Yeah, there's 7. I have them all. Have them all.
No way.
Yeah, I have them all. I kept all my stuff, yeah. Because I wrote a lot of this stuff, so a lot of it's in my writing files. I wrote all the dialogue in Black Ops 2 for Woods.
Now, as far as Black Ops 2 goes, essentially, there were 3 different endings. 3 things mattered: Mason living or not, Menendez living or not, and Karma living or not. Now, there's some other things that went into play there, but as far as that goes, essentially 3 endings, which means there were 2 more that they recorded and 2 more that were written but never recorded. And I want to know what these are. I will, if you guys want to see it, hit the like button, subscribe, and I will try to bug James C. Burns to see if maybe he can release the unreleased ones to us, but it might be a long shot. Speaking of long shots, let's talk about the next one, Black Ops 3.
Don't understand. I'm taking us home.
So this is actually the one to me that is the most wild, because this was one of the most confusing Call of Duty campaigns that would ever release. I've said it before, I'll say it again. It feels like you need a degree in quantum physics to understand what's going on in this one. And there's a reason for that, because this campaign wasn't supposed to be the linear campaign that we see in Black Ops 3. It was supposed to be an open world Call of Duty game. And I know we've heard this many times, but when you look at it, it actually makes a lot of sense. This game was supposed to have this central hub that takes place in Singapore, and it was supposed to be an open world game, which makes sense because actually a lot of the multiplayer maps take place in Singapore. And even going forward into Black Ops 4, there's multiple cutscenes in that game with Singapore with this virus outbreak that is going on in the area. That is why Firebreak walks around with a flamethrower to burn dead bodies that have been infected with the virus. This is a deep entrenched story within Black Ops 3 and Black Ops 4 that never really came to be because this whole Singapore storyline was never fully fleshed out because the open world campaign was shut down. This is another video that I would really like to make one day because I think there's a lot more to this than just saying this was supposed to be an open world game. I think I could find a lot more information on this. So again, if you want to see it, hit that like button. But yeah, this is what happened with Black Ops 3. Supposed to be an open world game, ends up being a linear, very, very confusing one. And other than that,
Outcome? Train go boom.
this is a concept image for a campaign that never existed. I think this is the most mind-blowing thing about this entire video. This is what a Black Ops 4 campaign could have looked like. And in fact, they built it out like 3 times and it never came to fruition. Campaign number 1. This is what they called career mode. It was a 2v2 multiplayer mechanic that was based in some sort of campaign. Now, to this day, it's not understood what that meant, but it was the World United Nations versus Free People's Army. This was the menu picture for career mode, and we don't really have a clear idea how exactly this would work. That's probably why this got scrapped, and then they tried to take the campaign that they already built and build it out into a linear campaign like we had in Black Ops 3 previously. So this, in February of 2018, got scrapped for what would become Blackout. However, they still had another idea for a campaign that they were trying to build out. And that was with the specialist stories. They tried building out this kind of hub that would give us the characters' stories that were the specialists. And we did end up seeing this, and that was the cutscene that I showed you earlier with Firebreak. Each of the specialists had their own cutscenes exactly like that. However, there was a lot more planned. There was going to be missions for each of the specialist characters to give them backstories, as well as, remember the headquarters from Call of Duty World War II? Yeah, there was going to be a specialist hub within Black Ops 4 that was going to be kind of the central area where all of this kind of took place to build out the story. This, of course, never happened. If all of this was complete, it would have been a crazy story and crazy campaign. But like I said, 3 campaigns they tried to make, but never existed. So we never got the Black Ops 4 campaign, and even though they tried, it never came to fruition. This is completely the opposite of what happened with our next game. So Black Ops Cold War wasn't supposed to be Black Ops Cold War. You see, the campaign was designed by Sledgehammer and Raven, and apparently this game was originally supposed to be called Call of Duty 1984, named after the George Orwell book 1984. It had a completely different characters, kind of a different theme, but when Activision stepped in and said, hey, we want another Black Ops game, they took the 1984 story and adapted it with the Black Ops characters and the Black Ops universe. This was originally supposed to be a completely different game. Now, other than this, I couldn't find any deleted missions or anything like this, but yeah, it was supposed to be a completely different game. So basically, they took the story of a Black Ops game that didn't exist and adapted it to Black Ops. And speaking of adaptations, this brings us into our final Black Ops game, Call of Duty Black Ops 6, the present game.
May God continue to bless the United States of America.
Now, I'm not gonna lie to you, because this is so fresh, there's no news as to what could have been with the Black Ops campaign, missions that were deleted or anything along those lines. However, based off of information that we're given, there's clearly something awry. This whole story revolves around 2 different things. One part of the story takes place during the Gulf War, and this game would be a completely normal Gulf War campaign. Meanwhile, the other half of the game takes place in Avalon, a fictional country that doesn't actually exist. In fact, the post-seasonal story, it takes place during that too. And looking at this campaign as a whole, it appears as though they took these 2 stories, one of the Gulf War and one of Avalon, jammed them together, and that's what we got of Black Ops 6. Again, this is another video I think I could make in a different video, diving into the two separate stories that were jammed together, but I don't know. There is nothing proven here. We don't have any proof that they were working on two separate games and jammed them together, but needless to say, it kind of seems like that. So that brings us to the end of the deleted Black Ops missions. Now, as I've mentioned before, there is so much more content than this. Whether you're talking about deleted zombies maps, whether you're talking about multiplayers that have completely changed and be written and missing guns, perks, kill streaks, systems in the game. There is so much deleted content in Call of Duty, and if you enjoy these type of videos and want to see me continue it moving forward, hit that like button. By the way, one other thing is like the other games, like Advanced Warfare deleted missions, Infinite Warfare deleted missions, things like that. If you want to see more videos like that, show me by hitting that like button, subscribe to the channel, and as always, thank you so much for watching, and until next time.